But I am not surprised, but I'm intrigued by the amount of support that you have had on social media. There's petitions been going around, and rightly so, because I mean the work that you have been doing is not unnoticed. People do see the work that you have done, the successes that you have had, and I fully support you and your department and all the traffic police, Metro Police, and all the people that, Wayne LaRue, Heathcliff, the law enforcement.
Well, we can be
hats off to you.
Hats off, capable and competent people. Nobody is there based on political credentials, unlike in the other big cities. I've now had a lot of contact with Tshwane, Joburg, and Nelson Mandela Bay. It is shocking to see what they've done to their systems and the integrity of their systems through years of cadre deployment. It's going to take a long time to undo that mess.
So you're giving them advice?
We've been in contact, we've been in meetings, I've met with senior officials. It is frightening when you see what's going on. Yeah. And it is, when one comes back, you appreciate what you have a little bit more when you see the integrity and the competency that exists in senior staff. And that is hard work to get that there and sustain that. So we can be proud of that. And we make a lot of mistakes. Nothing in the directorate I've been involved in is as I wanted. We're not doing nearly well enough with fires. We're not doing really well enough with traffic enforcement. I don't fool myself to think that anything we do is great or perfect. But you must see this against the benchmark of what is realistically possible in a country like South Africa, where you do not have the level of resources of London or Melbourne or New York. This is not the same. The social and economic environment is very different. The resource challenges is completely different. You have large portions of the population with very little income contributing, very little to rates, who need services. You need not only to render services capably to everybody and efficient services, but you need to catch up with service delivery, backlogs and infrastructure and other stuff that other cities don't have to deal with internationally. It is very challenging, a very challenging balancing act, and I would suggest that Cape Town hasn't done badly with managing that balancing act. If you look at the audits, if you look at the awards we win, it's not simple, and people who criticize often do so from a lack of detailed insight into what those challenges, what constitutes those challenges. And you'll get criticized around the policing stuff, but people need to understand that policing is one half of what my directorate does. The rest is the fire and emergency rescue services, where we have managed to more than half the number of people burning to death in fires. When I became MACO member for safety and security, or when I became portfolio chair, 7.9 people per 100,000 were burning to death in informal settlements and backyards. Those are horrible statistics. It's a horrible way to die, an awful way, because of overcrowded settlements and people sometimes not extinguishing fires or using candles and other heating devices that are dangerous. We've more than halved that figure. So, I mean, less than 3.6 people per 100,000 women dying to death in fire-related incidents in backyards and informal settlements, and how our fire mortality rate citywide is well below the rest of the South African average. So that is something to be proud of, and it's an almost concealed or invisible victory, because nobody talks about it. Very few people are interested in it. If you live in an informal settlement or backyard, it gets a lot of attention, but the media don't, so that doesn't get written about.
That's right.
They write about crime. And serious violent crime. So our traffic achievements in terms of road safety improvements, our fire achievements, those things we do control, that gets very little credit and exposure, but those are very important victories. And for the people who have not lost their lives in that way, who have not lost loved ones in that way, it is a major thing. And so the fire issues are important, and we've invested a lot of time and effort, training, resources, 380 million rands worth of capital investment, 5 new fire stations. We're relocating fire stations from where they traditionally were in former white areas to where they are needed in across the city now, because the traditional infrastructure was located in certain parts of the city.
Yes.
It's an expensive thing to abandon that building and create a new facility. You're talking 12 to 25 million rand for a new proper fire station and facilities depending on what you put in it. And we've had to systematically do that as quickly as the budget allows. We're preparing to do 3 new ones in Masiphumelele, Nomzamo and Langa. And the commitment is absolutely there to make sure we respond efficiently to fire. We can proudly say that more than about 85% of our fire incidents are responded to in under 14 minutes. It's not many services in South Africa that can say that. That over 80% of our calls at the call center are answered in under 20 seconds. Sure. We monitor that carefully.
That's 107, right?
107. So there are things that where we've led the pack. Many of the innovations we've driven, like the stabilization unit, the rent-a-cop or externally contracted services model, our bylaws have been copied elsewhere. Go onto the website for Johannesburg and eThekwini and Tshwane, and go look at the problem building bylaw. It is almost verbatim copy of the City of Cape Town's. I know because I was intimately involved in drafting that bylaw. Same with the components of their animal bylaws, their nuisance bylaws, etc. Plagiarized shamelessly from the City of Cape Town bylaw. And I think, it shows that we set the trend and that others follow. So our achievements don't go unnoticed by other people within the sector because they copy some of those achievements.
They do. Tell me, JP, when somebody gets a fine, say they get a fine, 150 Rand, where does that money go?
Into the General Council budget, so not for safety and security. There is this eager story that we officers go out and write fines to because it's, for instance, over this weekend with the rugby, people were complaining, we got fines for illegal parking. We suppose it's bonus time again.
Yeah.
There is no bonus.
Isn't there?
No, there is no commission, there is no quota, there is no incentive for an officer. Whether he writes 1 fine, 100 fines, 1,000 fines, or 10,000 fines, there is no financial benefit. Not a cent for that officer. Well, he doesn't get any more money.
Okay.
He doesn't get a cent more.
Okay.
So we track performance by watching to see if the guys actually write fines and if they do stop and searches and if they issue warnings and if they're doing drunk driving arrests. So you have to track performance and you track it through those indicators. But there's no incentive attached to it. There's no financial or monetary gain. Not for the officer, not for the traffic department, and not for the Safety and Security Directorate. It goes back into the General Council budget, of which we don't necessarily get a cent more.
Portfolio?
That's not how it works. You can't ring fence. The Municipal Finance Management Act is clear on that.
Okay.
So we don't get ring fenced revenue.
Okay.
We have been making an argument to finance that employing extra traffic officers is not a drain on the budget because they're more or less self-funding. Yeah. So give us more traffic officers because unlike Metro Police, who do a lot of crime prevention work and who don't earn their own income, they don't pay their own way because they're spending time doing work that is not revenue generating. Every time a traffic officer writes a fine, they are generating an income, and so they pretty much pay their own way, more or less. Not quite, but close. And we're saying to finance, you can afford to let us have more traffic officers because it's not a drain on the council budget. It balances out. You can't make that argument with fire or law enforcement or Metro Police. But there's no revenue attached and we get no financial benefit. We don't get more vehicles or more staff or anything else. The officers don't get any money.
Sure.
That is a misapprehension, an urban legend that has existed for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Before I became involved, I cursed the officers many times myself with that.
Tell me, JP, we're getting up to the festive season, getting up to New Year. People wanting to go out, have fun, drink, sometimes be, not responsible. What is your advice to them, and will there be a clampdown during this festive season?
Yes, we'll be clamping down, especially the vehicle checkpoints, lots of roadblocks everywhere. And sadly, I know it's annoying, but you need to do it because you want to be safe on the road. You do not want some madman sloshed out of his mind to careen into your family. You are sitting there on the night before Christmas or any other day that's important to you. You are waiting for your wife on a Friday night or any other night to come home, and you get that phone call to say your wife is in hospital or your children are in hospital because they got knocked over by some drunk driver. You want us to do that. And yes, you will find irritation occasionally sitting on the road in a roadblock, but understand there's an important bigger picture. So we'll be doing lots of roving enforcement where we observe for erratic behavior through the Ghost Squad and other units and the general enforcement staff, but also a big top up in roadblocks. And we have now a dedicated roadblock unit that does nothing all day, day and night, but do multiple roadblocks across the city all the time. Jeez. Because we understand that it's important to have that visibility as a deterrent. And quite frankly, if you're doing the roadblock 2 o'clock in the morning, you lost the battle. You need to be doing the roadblock at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock when people are going to the clubs, right, so that they look at that roadblock as they're driving into the city going, when I come back, there is a roadblock and it's here now, but it might be on the M5, it might be on the N3, it might be on Klipfontein Road, and we move it all the time. Best I not drink. Yeah. What you want is to have the deterrent effect, to get people not to drink or to think twice about it, to get the Uber, to get the taxi, to get to get a friend to drive them, or simply to stay over or not drink. You have the designated driver, have one person who doesn't drink, who can watch for you, because we need you to be alive at the end of the festive season. We need it to be a time of celebration, not a time of mourning. And for too many people across this country, this time will be a terrible time of mourning. And alcohol doesn't mix with anything. It doesn't mix with beaches, it doesn't mix with recreation activities, it doesn't mix with swimming pools, and it definitely doesn't mix with the road, either as a driver or pedestrian. Our festive season resources get topped up quite a lot because we have the luxury of overtime budget, which only is applicable to this December to January period, when we then pay staff to add extra hours to their working day. And that allows us to have much more visibility. It's not sustainable through the rest of the year. People always say, well, why don't you just do that all year? Because it costs a lot of money. And we do this at the times when our vehicle volumes swell. Normally, the CBD sees about 650,000 people into the CBD every day. So the numbers grow massively. At the moment, that's 850,000 that goes into the CBD every day. So that's a big volume of people. So you have to have the resource to respond. At the same time, you can't abandon the areas with high crime rates and forget that you're supposed to be present in them. So you have to make sure that you retain the resource there whilst being on the beaches. So the renter cops, of which we have now just on 400 of them, the auxiliary members, which will be 500 by the middle of next year, but just over about 380, 400 of them now. They're invaluable in adding to the base resources which we have. And then along with the seasonal fire casuals that we bring on board on the 15th of December, a whole lot of seasonal fire workers start, about 120 of them to help us with the extra fires, because during peak fire season we'll be clapping 100 fires a day. Last year we had 100 of fires a day. Strong wind and little rain is a combustible combination. So 100 fires a day, and if you don't nip them in the bud, they can become ravaging monsters like the inferno we saw in the South Peninsula, or these sad fires we have around between Christmas and the first week in January every year, whether it's in Masiphumelele or in IY or in Langa or in Kailicha. And we really want to avoid those. So in anticipation, we're not waiting for the fires. During this last year, we've done almost 900 awareness sessions with pamphlets and engagements, face-to-face, door-to-door, and through community events, which includes little theatre productions and other stuff, to tell people this is how you avoid the fire, this is how you prevent yourself from being in that situation. Because the fire department can't prevent the fire from starting. We can only put it out, and by that time it's too late. So we've done a lot of work in trying to reduce the number of fires, to prevent the fires. We had the fire safety campaign that ran on the media. So we've done as much as we can to try and get people to understand the risks and stop dangerous behavior themselves.
We're out of time, JP. Tell me, what is your New Year's resolution, man?
New Year's resolution, learn more Xhosa. And I need to learn, do a lot better with my learning of Xhosa, and hit the gym harder.
I think we both need to do that, yeah. That's mine too. JP Smith, thank you, man. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure,
Another episode of Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. I will catch you back next week, same time, same place. God bless. Bye-bye.